What's good, losers? So I finished the 1.1 Wuthering Waves story yesterday, and I thought I'd give my opinion on the whole MSQ. I'll be real, I wasn't planning on making a video, I just really wanted to make a short tweet about it. But apparently, I said something so outrageous that this bro had to reply with 1,000-word essaying me on why my opinion is wrong. Don't forget to subscribe right the heck now if you don't want me to come for your peepees in the night and take off 3 more inches, okay? You've got no inches left, bud, so you better be careful. Here I am, minding my own damn business, giving my take on the 1.1 Wuthering Waves story, when this bloody geezer decides to be a goddamn party pooper with the replies. So, let me set the scene. Here is the offending tweet in question. 1.1 Wuthering Waves hot thoughts, 7 out of 10. Pretty area, shame 90% of the MSQ is underground in a bleak area. Abby is fine, not annoying, yet. Chang Li's wabs carried the first half. Getting to play both Jinshi and Chang Li was a great idea. Story was good, though it feels there are no stakes, and you figure out what will happen and the outcome really quickly. It was interesting enough that it was engaging. Glorified movie with puzzles, meh. Limited fights. Boss fight looked pretty, great lore drops at the end. I don't know about you guys, but I feel this is a pretty milquetoast response that did not deserve a 4-paragraph actually to something I called good. Like, it's not like I gave an in-depth analysis or anything, and bro decided to write a whole ass Wikipedia page that doesn't actually make any kind of point against what I said. I feel like this response came about from me giving the MSQ a rating of 7 out of 10 more than anything else. I kind of get the impression that's where this reaction came from. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised about this essaying. Like, this is the same guy that in his ultimate 1.1 prep guide video said this.
So first up, and arguably most important, make sure that you are finishing your story quest for 1.1. If you are not up to date on the story and have finished Act 6, you will not be able to get into the 1.1 story into Mount Firmament.
Like, hello, from now on, I'm calling you Captain fucking Obvious because holy shit, dude, I know some people in the gacha community are brain dead, but you don't have to play that dumb for them. Guess what, guys? When I go for a poop, I have to pull down my pants or I'll shit myself. Like, thanks, Mr. Informative, you are such a fountain of knowledge. Now that I've set the scene, I'll go through what I said and why this response is kind of just worthless yap. No stakes? Did we play the same game? We were warned of the dangers of Mount Firmament in the first cutscene, that there's only been legends of people going there and never returning. Chang Li talks about how dangerous us traveling there is. The entire region was literally trapped in time, forced to live and die over and over again until the temporal lift was lifted. Jinshi was willing to sacrifice herself so that Jinzhou didn't end up suffering the same fate, and took a one opportunity shot in failing to do so and letting down her people. Here, you are describing the story setup, right? Essentially, if 1.1 was written as a book, this, what you had just tweeted, would be the blurb at the back. It has the premise to be compelling, but to me, it falls short of feeling like there were high stakes. The keyword in my tweet was that I felt there were no stakes. I never said there weren't any stakes, otherwise there would literally be no plot at all. Essentially, what I'm saying, it didn't really make for a wholly compelling story, although the lore drops and information were interesting. I'm going to explain to you why I felt this story wasn't truly compelling to me, and how maybe it could have been better. Once you reach this dangerous Mount Firmament, you will come across a couple of animals and people stuck in time for about 10 minutes, but then you proceed to enter Minlong Chamber, where this isn't the case. And from that point onwards, the entire rest of the story takes place underground, where the time freeze means absolutely nothing. Not to mention, it's also just kind of a bleak and dreary environment compared to the beautiful surface. The game wants us to care about a time freeze threat taking over Jinzhou, yet it doesn't do a good job in making us feel like we should particularly care. The whole of the 1.1 story really felt like it was about Jinshi's story and not a story about a threat we have to overcome to save Jinzhou, and that's perfectly fine for it to be. I'm not complaining about that at all. Having us actually experience something bad about this danger would make it far more compelling to us that the threat to Jinzhou is something we should really care about. Like literally anything to get us to relate or understand truly how dire the situation is. When we first get to Mount Firmament, we see Changli visually seem a little distressed about the change in environment as it begins to affect her. She tells us these disruptions could happen at any moment, but after this we never really come across anything negative about this time stuff again. Hear me out, it would have made the stakes seem so much higher if someone from our main cast, or even Changli herself, get affected by these rifts. Like what if someone from the cast ended up frozen in eternity for a brief period? Suddenly we can relate a little more to the situation and why it is so bad. After we find Jinxi and she's able to help free them, they can give an account just how much of a hell being stuck in eternity feels like. Just with that small detail, we'd feel the stakes so much more. You can't just tell us something is bad, you actually have to make us feel it and experience it. We don't even get the opportunity to speak to anyone in Huanglong about the effects of these time rifts. In fact, they don't make us care about this town or its people at all. But instead, they make us do a few boring puzzles underground in this Destiny 2 looking ass area to rescue the Sentinel, which, by the way, is insane to me that no one was there patrolling or guarding it. Like, I know the Fraxidus is kind of playing a game here with us, but did no one on the main cast find this suspicious that the Sentinel is literally unguarded? That's really all I meant when I said I didn't feel like there were very high stakes in this story. This really is just the Jinxi story quest, and that's very fine, that's okay. This is about her assuming power. Listen, I even said I thought the story was good, okay? I had a good time playing the game overall. There are definitely areas where I feel it could have had improvement. Like, why did it have to be all underground? Mount Firmament is such a beautiful place. Like, I know people say, oh, but there are side quests, you can go and explore it later, but I feel like for a main quest, it should be the most beautiful place possible. This really felt that 1.1 was the patch of the lore, and I really fuck with that. I thought that was so cool. All the new information we learned, I thought was great, especially about our MC. I mean, I always complain about a story that doesn't affect our main character, Honkai Star Rail Penacony, but in this instance, we learned stuff about ourselves in the process too, which I think was a really good thing. I gave 1.1 a 7 out of 10. It's not like I gave it a 3 or a 4 or I said it was bad. I said it was good. I just said the threat wasn't that compelling. That's all I did. I never said at any moment that the lore dump was bad or we didn't get enough hints into what comes next. I never said that. Jue gave us a massive hint regarding there being a ton more unanswered questions we need to seek out in other regions, like the Black Shore. Fraxidus was teased again, and Frovola hinted at helping Scar escape prison. You know, the same group of people that plan on ending the world by resurrecting the Threnodians. Again, I never said that this was the bad thing. I didn't think this was, I'm talking about the stakes of the current threat of the patch. I'm not talking about the stakes of the next patch. I'm talking about this patch and this story. I'm not talking about 1.2 stakes in threat. I'm talking about my 1.1 story experience, not the last 1 minute of the patch. Early on in the quest, we got teased of an entire new country called Renus, where it's not uncommon for echoes to speak and are on the next level. Cool, I really like that too. I didn't say I didn't like that. Am I supposed to say everything I thought was cool in this story? Am I supposed to say every bit of lore dump, this specific lore dump was good in order for me to like make a tweet? Am I just not allowed to like say what I think? You thought the story was figured out too quick, but you also hated Honkai Star Rail 2.1, 2.2 for too much yapping. Well, which do you want, bud? I don't hate 2.1 or 2.2 necessarily, I just really didn't like their way of storytelling. I might make this into a whole separate video because I have some very strong thoughts about Penacony's story overall. I actually thought 2.2 was pretty good. I would still rank it above 1.1 Wuthering Waves. I'm just being real, and I think a lot of people right now have this sort of recency bias for Wuthering Waves. But if you go back and actually break down the story bit by bit, you'll kind of realize there's not actually that much there. I think Honkai Star Rail suffers from using metaphors and ways of writing that's very fluffy but doesn't add much to what's going on, and Kuro is taking the opposite approach where they're not actually filling out bits that they probably should. I'm not asking Kuro to make an 8-hour yap fest for every single patch. That's not what I'm doing at all. I feel like that's just like thrown in here in this tweet as some kind of like haha gotcha moment, but it's really not. A 3-4 hour quest compared to 8 hours is a stark difference. I'm talking like maybe like at most half an hour extra sort of dialogue or scenario, or an extra scenario in this patch that makes us feel more compelled to like want to see this patch through and want to do good for Jinzhou. Overall, the best things about 1.1 is definitely Changli and Jinshi and Jue, right? Like that's just it. Talking with the characters, getting to see them, their designs, how their kit works, getting Jinshi and looking at her story and how everything's affecting her. That's all great part of the story. I have nothing bad to say about that. I thought it was good. There's no real true gameplay in this MSQ. The only thing really is the ending boss fight, right? And let's be real, it was a goddamn cool boss fight. So it's no wonder people come away with it with this bias of, oh, I feel good after that, that's fine. But when you actually go back and think about what you had done in those 4 hours, not that much actually happened until the end. Let's be real, even like the big lore reveals came at the very end where we just like sit there and like ask you questions. Like it wasn't really integrated into the story much at all. Which is fine, we still get interesting, engaging information, it's just not told in a very compelling way in a storytelling sense. I like 1.1. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think that's a pretty good rating. I don't think it's a masterpiece in cinema. I really don't. The cutscenes were done very well, and the cutscenes are better than that of Genshin and Honkai Star Rail for sure. And that's definitely what contributes to my higher number, like above the fight. It's not, I didn't call it mid. I'm saying it's good, but what brings it down is that compellingness of the storytelling. That's all I really have to say on the matter. I just think my tweet was taken in a sort of reactionary way because I didn't rate it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. I really do not think this deserves a 9 or a 10. Like, I just really, I would not, you'd have to point a gun at my head for me to give it a 9 or a 10. I'll be so real. But I enjoyed my experience in 1.1 and I'm very much looking forward to 1.2. I'm excited for what Kuro has cooking for us. I like the direction it's going in and I'm very happy to experience more. So that's all I gotta say, guys. I'll peace out. See ya.